Knuckleheads, welcome to the Keyshawn Davis versus Dennis Berinchyk post-fight show live. I'm your host, the Fightersrep, and what an absolutely beautiful, amazing performance by Keyshawn Davis, taking on the champion, 11 years his senior in Dennis Berinchyk, and making mincemeat out of the guy in just 4 rounds. If you're wondering, this fight was not close at all. Keyshawn Davis was in control, I would say, for almost the entirety of this fight. You could say maybe in the first round it was a little bit close. There was a feeling out process, but as the rounds went on, Keyshawn Davis, absolutely just took over this fight, and it wasn't close. It wasn't close. And he gets the finish in the 4th round, using Dennis Berinchyks' very weird, very awkward style against him. And what I mean by that is Berinchyk was in and out, and when he would come in, he likes to hold. It's almost like a Vladimir Klitschko type of thing, right? And that's the first person that came to mind because I'm thinking Ukrainians, right? So I'm thinking Vladimir Klitschko, whenever people approach him, he would hold them. It was kind of the hug and jab situation you had there. Berinchyk, not really the same because he's actually the one going in and out. Every time he would go in, he would try to hug, he would try to smother, he would try to throw these awkward shots on the inside. After a bit, Keyshawn Davis just figured him out, knuckleheads. He basically made it so that it was pretty brilliant to finish, actually. You know, Berinchyk came in, grabbed Keyshawn, and I think they were saying that Terrence Crawford was yelling in the background, keep him off of you, don't let him grab you, keep him off of you, go to the body. And basically Keyshawn kind of let him grab him almost, postured, like was trying to posture up, and in the process of doing that, Berinchyks' arms are up here, and Davis just dug 2 really hard shots to the body. I mean, they were like uppercuts right to the body. And the second one dug right into the liver of Dennis Berinchyk, and he just couldn't even get up, man. And this is a guy who's a pretty tough guy. He's been around a long time. So for him to get finished in that fashion, it was very impressive. 4th round, knuckleheads. And I'll go as far as to say this was one of the easiest fights I've ever seen for Keyshawn Davis. I mean, it looked like these two weren't even in the same league, if I'm being honest with you guys. And I don't really rate Berinchyk that highly, if I'm being honest with you guys, after what I saw, especially tonight. I mean, he just didn't have anything even close to the answer to deal with a guy like Keyshawn Davis, but he was the champ, right? And he did earn that title. But I don't know, maybe it's just I don't like his style. I thought it was very ugly. At the same time, Keyshawn is so good, I think he just made him look like he didn't belong in there with him. It was a dominant performance. I felt like it was easy work for Keyshawn Davis, who's really now coming into his own with this title, man. I can't even imagine what the confidence is going to look like with the WBO strap now. I mean, he was already so incredibly confident in himself. This kid, Keyshawn Davis, man, he's something else. And I've been saying this. I've been saying this on the channel. I've been saying this in the lead up to this fight. This kid is just a special talent. I feel like this kid is, you know, one of the best fighters in the world right now. I've been saying one of the best upcoming. But this kid is one of the best fighters in the world right now. And I said this in the prediction. I believe this kid's going to touch pound for pound very soon. He might be at the very top of it soon. He fights very similarly, right, in his own way, but there are similarities to Bud Crawford now, and you could see them. You could see them in the way he threw his punches. You know, there was actually one punch he threw that reminded me so much of Crawford, where it was like a hook, but it was like an overhand hook, and the camera was catching it kind of from an angle where, you know, Keyshawn's back was facing to us. And I said to myself, my goodness, it looks just like, you know, looks just like Terrence Crawford. I mean, I don't think he, you know, was moving that much in this fight. So it didn't remind me of Crawford too much. in that sense, because I felt like Crawford in the fights he's been in lately, especially, he's had to really work and he's fought some elite guys, had to move around a lot. But in this situation, and I feel like in previous situations too, I feel like the difference between them is Keyshawn is more of a kind of a walk you down guy because he's so strong. He's so strong compared to these guys he's fighting at lightweight. He's big. He's strong for the division. And Berinchyk, I mean, he straight up sunned Berinchyk, right? I mean, the guy looked like his child in there. I mean, he just really did him in. I would say the most success Berinchyk had throughout the entirety of the fight was landing a couple right hands kind of over the top. That's pretty much the only success he had. It was very sparse. It was very few and far between. And let me tell you guys, Keyshawn, the businessman Davis, man, he really is about his business. If he keeps doing this, this guy's going to be a household name. I can't wait to watch who else this kid fights, and I'm very excited, but I got a real strong feeling people are not going to be lining up to fight this guy. They're going to be avoiding this guy the same way they avoided Terrence Bud Crawford. And he said anybody in the post-fight interview said anybody that has the guts to step in the ring with me, let's do it. Another couple interesting things I wanted to touch on, right? He said, obviously the antics this week, were there, but they didn't bother him. I think he said they didn't bother him. I got to release it tonight. And that's basically what I said on the channel. That's what I said in the prediction. I said to everybody who watched, I said, listen, there are some people that are so good at what they do that they're able to use their emotions, to use their anger, to use whatever comes up during fight week, like that weird box that Keyshawn got in his hotel room. And they're able to channel that energy, right? And kind of, become like a Power Ranger, right? Morph it all together, push all that energy together and fire it at the enemy. And that's what Keyshawn Davis was able to do tonight, knuckleheads. I mean, he was able to just put it together and just absolutely run through Dennis Berinchyk like a hot knife from Norfolk, Virginia, through butter. Now, I will say, as far as the prediction goes, Gary was closer to the getting it right than I was, right? I said that this thing would be over in the 7th round. Keyshawn Davis will get the knockout. Gary, on the other hand, my co-host on the podcast, so we go live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, said 6th round. He thought this thing was going to be over in the 6th round. I think he said maybe even earlier. So big shout out to Gary. He was a little bit closer than me on the prediction, even though I took the prediction from him, right? His first instinct was 7th round. Then he said, you know what? Nah, 6 or before. And then I said, you know what, Gary? I'm going to go with your first instinct. I'm going to go with 7th round. The more I thought about it, I said, man, maybe Gary is right, but I'm going to just stick with the 7th round. But it turned out to be a 4th round finish. Brutal fashion. Body shot. I mean, there's no cleaner way to win the title than the way Keyshawn Davis did that thing tonight. If you haven't already, knuckleheads, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop whatever comments or suggestions or complaints you have in the live chat, and we can go back and forth. That's what this channel is about. This is a boxing fraternity for us to come together and talk about the fights. This is Fighters Rep, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God about the sport of boxing. And go ahead and tell me what you think about this fight tonight. Another couple highlights in the fight, or in the evening, rather. I saw the Xander Zayas fight versus, I believe his name was Slava. Slava was his first time. I'm kind of forgetting the last name now. But listen, Xander looked good. I thought the guy stuck around a bit longer than he should have for a kid like Xander. I really like Xander. I think he should have gotten that guy out of there a bit sooner. But, he got the job done. He also ended the night with a body shot a la Keyshawn Davis. And, he continues to do his thing. He looked great. Also, I didn't really get to catch Jared Anderson. I want to go back and watch the Jared Anderson fight. But what I'm hearing, and maybe you guys could fill me in, what I'm hearing about Jared Anderson is that he didn't look like he really wanted to be there. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm going to go back and watch it. But I'm hearing he didn't look that great. And I was really hoping he would, coming off that loss to Martin Bakole. You know, we all want to see Jared Anderson succeed. At least I do, you know, as an American fight fan. I want to see Jared Anderson succeed. But I'm hearing that he didn't look great. So if anyone wants to fill me in, drop it in the chat. Tell me what you guys think. Also, I believe Nico Ali Walsh lost his fight. Man, that's not a good look at all. Not a good look at all. So, you know, I don't know where he goes from here. He was already a bit of a gimmick, if we're being honest. And for him to lose again, you know, I think that does a lot of harm for his career. I hope he could bounce back if he's serious about this, but he's going to have to put in the work. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks this, but I got to just get right back to the point on Keyshawn Davis, man. I mean, this guy's incredible. I mean, this guy's one of my favorite, quickly turning into one of my favorite fighters in all of boxing, knuckleheads. And that's not easy. You know, I'm an old school fight fan. I promoted fights for 7 years at the highest level. Probably the best kickboxing show in the United States while it was around was Fightersrep. I've been watching boxing my entire life. I've been on this planet over 40 years. There are very few guys, right, that really resonate with me the way Keyshawn Davis is resonating with me now. I'll tell you another guy that really used to resonate with me, right, and still does, even though he's very much in the twilight of his career, is Dillian White. You know, I like guys with that attitude. They just want to fight everyone. The can man, Dillian White. You know, he was just, even though his skills weren't what Keyshawn Davis's are, he was just down to fight everyone. He's still down to fight everyone. Terrence Crawford. I'm a huge fan of Terrence Crawford. He's one of my favorite fighters in boxing because he's down to fight everybody, and anybody. And he's got the skills to pay the bills. And Keyshawn, the businessman Davis, man, he's paying, listen, he's giving out 1099s. This guy is, you know, got more than the skills to pay the bills. This guy's paying the bills and the independent contractors, right? And that's pretty much what fighters and what the athletic commission are. They're just a bunch of independent contractors. So my boy Keyshawn, businessman Davis, is a real businessman. He's getting the 1099s out there for the commission. He's keeping the referee sharp because when he's in there, it could end just like that. That's what I love about Keyshawn Davis. It can end just like that. He's clean in his technique. He's dirty and nasty. He's got that mean streak in him, in his attitude. This is another, I've been saying it. Gary was like, I don't know. He was taking it too technically on the podcast. This is another Terrence Crawford on the come up. That's what this kid is. This kid is another Terrence Crawford on the come up. And I almost want to say that he's more hard-nosed in the way he fights, right? It's a little bit more direct. It's a little bit more walk forward, right? It's a little less finesse, and it's a little more rough. And I like it. I like Keyshawn Davis, man. I like the businessman, knuckleheads. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Join the channel. Anything you guys spend in here is just going to get reinvested right back into the channel. I'm going to be dropping daily content for you guys. I'm going to be going live after the big fights like we're doing right now. I'd love to hear your opinions, so put them in the live chat. Drop them in the comments. I want to hear what you guys think about this fight. That's what this is about. That's what Fightersrep is about. It's a community for us to talk about fights and to do so in a respectable way where everybody is welcome. Now, I will say there is some bias, right? I'm always going to go, unless something crazy happens, I'm always going to go for the American fighter. Why? Because even though I'm Arab American, I'm still American. I'm going to go for the American fighter. I was going for Keyshawn Davis tonight, as I've already informed you guys, one of my favorite fighters in boxing, period. And I'm glad you guys are seeing it. And look, I will say, having watched fights for a very long time, having trained for a very long time, having been a promoter for 7 years, I feel like I've got a fantastic eye for talent. And I say that, and let me give you guys some evidence, right? I'm not trying to be arrogant or show off here. Let me give you guys a little bit of evidence. I picked Tyson Fury to beat Vladimir Klitschko. How many guys do you know? And I've got it somewhere. I'm going to post it. I'll post it for you guys as proof. I picked Tyson the Gypsy King Fury to beat Vladimir Klitschko. I picked Keyshawn Davis, right, to finish this fight in the 7th round. I should have said it would go earlier, the way my co-host Gary did. He obviously has an eye for talent as well. Shout out to Gary. I got an eye for talent, and I'm telling you guys, this kid is about to, this businessman, right? He's about to, I would say, who's going to send a repo man. He's going to go himself. This kid is about to kick in the door of the pound for pound house and just take everybody's cookies in there. This kid from Norfolk, Virginia, United States of America, Gulf of America, right? He's about to go in the door, kick it down, and tell everybody in there, listen, my boy Bud Crawford is going to fight Canelo and ride off into the sunset. I like his seat at the bar right there in the pound for pound bar. I like the seat right there. I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to sit down right where my buddy Terrence Bud Crawford's sitting down. As soon as he gets up and heads on over to Canastota or whatever the weird name is for that city where the Hall of Fame's at. That's what's going to happen. I got a feeling, knuckleheads, he might be kicking that pound for pound door in before Terrence Crawford even moves off into the sunset. I mean, this kid is a tremendous talent. We got to get behind him. As American fight fans, we got to get behind him. And also, we got to get in the backside, right? And I don't want to say any bad words or anything because then YouTube's going to start wigging out on me and not send me out towards everybody. But we need to get in to the buttocks, the backside of whoever it was. And I'm not calling for violence here, but I'm calling about, calling this person out. Whoever it was that sent that ridiculous box to the businessman with the bananas and the watermelon in it. Guys, it's 2025. Listen, if you want to reprieve from that racial boxing weirdness, come on into this channel, subscribe to this channel, join this channel, drop a super chat. Anything you spend here is going to get reinvested right back into the channel. I'm going to have some big interviews coming up for you guys. Any merchandise you buy below. Listen, you want to reprieve from that weirdness. This is it. This is the reprieve from the weirdness. This is where gentlemen get together. The boxing fraternity comes together and discusses boxing. And let me tell you, this kid, Keyshawn Davis, man, if you're not a fan of this kid, I love that this was for free, by the way, on ESPN. Well, I want to say free, but I guess you got to have that goofy app and pay monthly for it or whatever it was. But better than pay-per-view, right? I'm so glad that this kid is for free. I'm so glad he's coming around during the time where the big turkey with all the gravy has come out of Saudi Arabia. The big turkey, the big old Disneyland, Disney World turkey that you just walk around eating off of. The boxing fans and community got the big turkey leg, and they're just going to be eating off of it all day, every day, and it's perfect timing for Keyshawn Davis to come in with the big turkey leg, pouring gravy out for everybody, getting money for everybody. It's the perfect timing. Ring Magazine is popping. Keyshawn Davis is coming up. Big Turkey El Sheikh is throwing money around like he's at a club down in Miami, and they're shaking their backsides. And it's just, what more do you want? What more do you want? Boxing is hotter than it's ever been. The perfect time for Keyshawn, the businessman Davis, to come and put his briefcase down and do some real business. I absolutely love it. Now, the other thing I want to say is, I kind of want to go back to this, right? Dennis Berinchyk. I mean, I don't know. You guys tell me, right? You tell me in the comments section or in the live chat. Did that guy look like he even belonged in there with Keyshawn Davis? Did he look like he even belonged in there with Keyshawn Davis? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm expecting too much from these fighters. The guy didn't look like he belonged in there. The guy didn't look like the same size. The guy didn't look like the same physique of the same sport, right? Keyshawn Davis was so far superior to this guy. I'm not taking anything away from Keyshawn. He was just so far superior to this guy who was the WBO world champion 11 years his senior, that he made him look like he was an amateur. And what was crazy to me was when my boy, Cabeza La Grande, Timothy Bradley, bro. Tim Bradley needs skull reduction surgery, right? You know how some of these ladies, they got big chests, they're getting chest reduction? Timothy Bradley needs skull reduction surgery. But anyway, he found a tie that was big enough to look normal with that big head he's got. Hey, I got a big head too, Tim. Maybe we can do a 2-for-1 head reduction, skull reduction. Listen, crazy to me when Tim said right off the bat, oh, you can see Keyshawn is the more technical fighter. I mean, how can a guy like Keyshawn Davis, and this was just his 14th fight, they were showing a graphic on the broadcast saying that he won that lightweight title in a record of, fewest fights, like only 14, only like Lomachenko and some guy in black and white, those black and white old boxing, old-timey boxing pictures, you standing like this. He won that title in just 14 fights. How does a kid with that many fights take him to school? How does a guy take him to school with 14 fights? A guy that went to the Olympics, bro, they took his shirt off, you guys. They took his shirt off. And there was an Olympic tattoo, 2012 London. And this kid from Norfolk, Virginia, with mental problems. Don't ask me why I got into promoting when I did and was trying to help these kids out when I was promoting for 7 years. But there's talent everywhere. This kid with mental issues from Norfolk, Virginia, absolutely schooled an Olympian from the Ukraine who was on the same team as the great Vasily Lomachenko, the great Alexander Usyk, the great even Vosnik. You got to give Vosnik credit too. The guy won a bronze medal and really only ever lost to Artur Beterbiev and David Benavidez. How does this kid, right, with relatively speaking, a handful of fights, I mean, granted, it's a big handful, right? It's maybe one of my hands or, Shaq's hands, but just a handful of fights. Go out there and within 10 to 15 seconds, you could already see, oh, whoa, this kid's on a different level. Legendary SS Jackson says it was a shaky start for sure. I'm wondering what you mean by that. Because the only thing that happened in that first round was a feel it out process. After that, it was just a download of information. Keyshawn Davis just downloading information on this Ukrainian guy, Dennis Berinchyk, and just up, down, left, right, PA select start, just wiping him out. Complete wipeout. The excessive holding is what legendary SS Jackson says. And in the granite, my boy Bobby Nizzo says, my friend George, well, hopefully he knows me now. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Join the channel. Listen, there's nothing quite like it. Knuckleheads, there's nothing quite like it, right? Watching these kids from these obscure places A kid, Norfolk, Virginia, mental problems, barely made it out of where he's from to be on the world stage at Madison Square Garden, even if it's in the theater. It's still Madison Square Garden. It's still MSG, baby. To be an MSG for his debut title fight against a guy who has probably 20 times the amateur and overall fight experience as he has, and to go out there and school the Olympian. School him. School him. I mean, it goes to show you guys. It goes to show you guys it doesn't, just going to the Olympics is not enough. It doesn't matter. Birds of a feather flock together. I've been saying this forever. I made that rhyme. That was pretty good. Birds of a feather flock together. I've been saying it forever. And he's got a tether to Terrence Bud Crawford, and that's a problem. For the lightweight division, that's a problem. That is just a problem. Ronald Johnson, appreciate you being in here. Bro, legendary SS Jackson. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed, this is Fightersrep. This is a boxing fraternity where gentlemen who respect each other and respect themselves come in to discuss boxing. We go live after all the big fights. I drop daily content about boxing. If you guys want to know more about me, attorney, former promoter, 7 years at the highest level of kickboxing in the United States, and boxing pundit, been watching this and doing this forever. Birds of a feather. There's a willing to bet we see Shakur versus Keyshawn eventually. Ronald, but that's a bit difficult, right? Because I believe they're stablemates. I mentioned Terrence Crawford, right? A stablemate of Keyshawn Davis. And Shakur's part of that gang, right? Gang. He's part of that. They're not going to fight each other. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see them fighting each other. What I do see is he's wrapped himself in this human blanket of excellence. Terrence Crawford. Bomac is the trainer. And I'm sure he's cooking up a storm out there. Delicious food. Terrence Crawford cooking up the technique. Shakur Stevenson is cooking up the pedigree as well. I mean, just completely surrounded by some of the best fighters. Some of the best fighters you'll ever see. First live stream that I've caught here. Appreciate you being here, man. I appreciate you being here. Keyshawn says he'd never fight Shakur, unfortunately. It makes sense. These guys, listen, knuckleheads, these guys are all teammates. And that's why I said birds of a feather flock together. You are the average of the people you hang out with. And, I've been saying it on this channel. It's been a while now. I want to go back and see when I started saying this. I've been saying it on this channel for a while now. This kid, Keyshawn Davis, the businessman, is about to kick the door in to the pound-for-pound rankings. This kid is a problem. This kid, did you guys see that finishing sequence? He literally used Berinchy's aggressive grappling against him. He postured back and up a little bit. Berinchy's arm was stuck behind him. Of course, it's that right arm, right? That liver's right there. And guess what? Keyshawn knew it. Bang, bang, right on the liver. And when they zoomed it in and they showed it on the replay and they showed it in slow motion, I mean, when I watched it live, I said, "Oh, that hurts. That's tough." And he's not getting up. That's a liver shot. He placed that. That was done on purpose. That was not an accident. You don't hang out with Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson and do that by accident. Postured up, postured back. Bang, spleen, bang, liver. Good night. It's over. Good night, Norfolk. Good night from Virginia. It's over. It's America. Listen, Like the great coach Derek Collinsworth tells me all the time, my brother down there in Texas, he's the one that made Quentin Randall the great fighter that he was. He's still down there training, one of the best trainers. He says in his Cajun accent, I can't do it, son. Son, boxing was perfected in the 1930s in America, 1920s, 1930s. That's what he said. That's what he tells me. And I believe it. I believe it because, listen, they bring these guys from other countries and they've got great pedigrees, and the Russians and the Kazakhstanis and the Cubans and everything else. But you bring this Ukrainian, 11 years Keyshawn Davis is senior, and you put him in the ring against Keyshawn Davis, and it looks like he has no business in there. Look, guys, he looked like a Muay Thai fighter fighting a boxer. He looked like an MMA fighter. He looked like an MMA fighter fighting a boxer. Am I wrong? I mean, what did he look like to you guys? Put in the chat. Tell me in the chat what this guy looked like to you, right? Did he look like a pro boxer in there against Keyshawn Davis? Didn't look like it to me. All the Davis brothers are tough as they come. Self-respect, huge character trait. Loyalty, even more so, says in the granite. Ronald Johnson says Shakur's going to get jealous of all the attention he's getting. Ronald, I feel real bad for Shakur because you could tell he really wants to fight everybody, but nobody wants to. Listen, that's what's going to happen to Keyshawn. That's what happened to Bud Crawford. You think they were freezing Bud Crawford out the welterweight division just because he was on the other side of the street? No, man, these guys, they can make these fights happen. If a guy from one promoter wants to fight a guy from another promoter, they can make it happen. They didn't want to make it happen because Bud Crawford is a freaking nightmare. He's a nightmare to deal with. This guy is somebody who's dedicated to his craft, who shows up. That's what I was trying to show these young people as a promoter. Show up, be dedicated to your craft, and you'll just be better than everybody. Terrence Bud Crawford is one of those guys, and he's only going to hang out. Guys like that are only going to hang out with other guys like that. I'm trying to express this to you guys. He's not going to hang out with Keyshawn Davis if Keyshawn Davis is not putting the work in. He's not going to hang out with Shakur Stevenson if Shakur Stevenson is not putting the work in, and people are not going to want to fight these guys. So I'm interested to see what happens next with Keyshawn Davis, because right now, if you put him in there with somebody else at 135, it's going to be a real problem for that person. And Teofimo Lopez, if he's the one that sent that goofy box, if he's the one that sent that goofy, ridiculous box, because we saw him on his social media eating a banana and laughing about it, he better not. Listen, Keyshawn's already saying, I won't fight him. I don't want to help him make any money because it looks like he did it, and I'm not going to fight him and help him make any money. Good. But the problem, Keyshawn, is who's going to want to fight you? Who's going to want to fight you after what you just did and with the company you keep? Who? He hit him with the same shot that Ryan took out Luke Campbell with. Yup. Absolutely legendary. Absolutely. Keyshawn Davis getting that money. Fight next. Liver punches shut down the whole body. You're right about that, Bobby. Always go to the body. Always. Late 1800s, American boxers started keeping stats early 1900s. It was perfected in 1930, son. Doing my best, Derek Collinsworth. Crawford ends Canelo. You see, there I'm not sure. And I'll cover that in a second. Let me just read through a couple more of these comments. Crawford trains year-round, lives that championship lifestyle. You're absolutely right about that, Bobby. And Rico Breezy says National Watermelon and Banana Day. That's diabolical. Rico, that's crazy that this freaking guy would do that. And I think if you put Teofimo Lopez in there versus Keyshawn Davis, it might be a good fight. I think it'd be a really good fight. But right now, listen, boxing is what have you done for me lately? And it's Valentine's Day. I hope you did something for your significant other, because boxing is the same way. If you haven't done nothing for her lately, she's going to get you. She's going to get you. And if you look at what boxing's done for me lately, or what they've done in boxing lately, there's no way you have Teofimo Lopez beating Keyshawn Davis with the way they've looked in their last fights. Crazy. Crazy. Rico Breezy. Listen, it's funny, but it's not. It's funny, but it's not, bro. It's, guys, how are people still doing? Listen, I was born in the 80s. I'm from Miami in the 80s. And we didn't even insult each other racially like that. I mean, we didn't. I mean, even in the 80s, I don't remember it like that. Who does? It's 2025. Who's doing this shit in 2025, bro? I don't know. Miami was a different animal. Everybody was from somewhere. It's not really the same as a lot of parts of the United States, I guess. But it's just wild. It's just wild to me that somebody would send another guy, a Black American person, a box with watermelon and bananas in it. That's just unacceptable. And listen, that's our boy. That's our boy. Keyshawn Davis is our guy. It's USA. It's America. That's our guy. We need to stand up for our guy. If we're not going to stand up for our guy, you know, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. For me, it was Team Keyshawn Davis from the very beginning when this fight was announced. It's always going to be like that. I'm almost always, unless something crazy happens, I'm almost always going to go with the American fighter. My wife's birthday on Valentine's Day, 1971. I never cared about color of skin, character of the man. Yo, that's what Martin Luther King thought. That's what he taught. And when you're the son of immigrant children, as I was, and they don't know nothing about this stuff because they didn't have these issues in the country they were from, that's who you learn from. You learn as a kid growing up in Miami from Martin Luther King that, oh, I just got to treat everybody the same. And then if they treat me good, I treat them good. If they treat me like shit, I'm just not going to deal with them. It all starts at home. Lopez is a clown. Keyshawn making two decent fighters look terrible back-to-back, though, is a force to be reckoned with. Rico, I've been saying it. Rico, I've been saying it a long time, man. This guy, I've already said it 2-3 times already on this chat. He's kicking in the door to the pound-for-pound bar, right? He's waiting for Terrence Crawford to get up off the stool, and he's kicking in the door. Right now, he's knocking on it. He sees Terrence Crawford inside. Terrence Crawford is sitting across from Canelo right now. They're both having drinks and looking at each other. They're sizing each other up right now. I'm going to get into Canelo Crawford in a bit. They're sizing each other up right now. And Keyshawn Davis is on the outside like, let me in. And, Crawford at some point, probably after the Canelo fight, is going to come to that door and be like, what's the password? And Keyshawn Davis is going to say, New England clam chowder. And, then he's going to ask him the red or the white. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. That is what is going to happen. This kid is a problem. Anybody who doesn't see it is full of crap. All right? And that's what it is. We're all immigrants. Our ancestors are. You're absolutely right about that. Except the Native Americans. They belong here. They're here from the beginning. 4PF says, do you think Keyshawn ready for Gervonta Tank Davis? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that fight would be absolute fireworks. I think that fight would be a banger. I would love to see that fight. But unfortunately, this is my opinion, right? And I'm a huge Gervonta Tank Davis fan. I had a little back and forth with Gary on the podcast about this on Tuesday. We go live, by the way, every Tuesday on the podcast. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Me and Gary went back and forth on this Tank Davis thing. I said, they're both great. I think they're both excellent fighters. I love them both. But I believe Keyshawn Davis's attitude and approach to the business of boxing is one that's more focused on legacy, a real legacy, versus Gervonta Davis, one that's more focused, a la Floyd Mayweather, on making money and on being the A side and on constantly having leverage. For me, Keyshawn Davis, he don't care about none of that. He just wants to go in there and whip your behind. That's what he wants to do. Keyshawn just wants to go in there and whip your behind. Gervonta Tank Davis, he wants to do that too, but he wants to make sure that you're going to be the weight he wants you at, that you're going to get paid less than he is, that, you know, he's more concerned with these other things, right? They trump the legacy thing. Keyshawn Davis is all about the legacy. And that's why if you're a throwback fight fan, I'm telling you guys, Keyshawn Davis is the guy. Keyshawn Davis is the guy. Let me see here. Wavoka in here. Appreciate you being in here, Wavoka. I really, every time new people come in here, I appreciate it. If you haven't been in here already, subscribe, join the channel. It doesn't cost you that much. There are different levels. Anything you do helps me continue to do this and hopefully escape the rat race at some point. Wavoka says, you know nothing. Native Americans were not here before the Olmecs. Black descent, research more. 135, fire right now, going undisputed for any four of the champs is instant access to Hall of Fame. You're right about that. You're right about that. Inoue, both Davises, all problems. Yes, Inoue is a huge problem. Wavoka, I've heard this Olmecs thing before. I don't believe it. I don't think the genetics, which you can easily like do a swab and figure out the answer to all this stuff. The genetics just doesn't support it. But I appreciate the opinion. Let me see here. I wanted to talk real quick about Crawford. Versus Canelo, because Bobby said Crawford ends Canelo. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. He's so good, right? Crawford is so good. Let's not forget, I think he started somewhere around 130, 135. So for us to even see him dominate Errol Spence the way he did at 147 is crazy. For us to see him beat Israel Madrimov at 154 is insane. And for him to only take one fight at 154 pounds and then want to jump all the way up to 168 pounds to fight a guy in Canelo Alvarez, Big Red, who's already acclimated to that weight class, Spicy Big Red, is I don't even, what do you even call it? What term do you use to subscribe, to describe, not subscribe. Subscribe is what I want you to do. But also, if you can describe, what do you call a guy in Terrence Crawford who jumps up 2 weight classes from 154, where he has no business even being that big, to fight a guy like Canelo? It's why I got to give Canelo a slight edge. And let me tell you guys why I give Canelo a slight edge in that fight, although I definitely think Terrence Crawford could win. I got to give Canelo a slight edge because he's already there, and he's a very good boxer. Canelo's a very good boxer, guys. Let's not even pretend like he's not at the P for P bar, right, with Terrence Crawford and Alexander Usyk, with Keyshawn Davis right now knocking at the door. Keyshawn Davis hitting the door like this right now, by the way, at the pound-for-pound bar. He's headbutting it. He's hitting it. Terrence Crawford is up there, but Canelo Alvarez is in there too. And so when you have two really good fighters and one of them is a bit bigger, naturally, not a bit bigger, significantly bigger, and the other one might have a bit more skill, but he's smaller, it's almost like a stalemate. I would just give the slight edge to Canelo Alvarez because he's so good. And we saw when Charlo tried fighting Alvarez, he thought he could do it, but thinking and looking at it from the outside and having a whole lot of confidence, right, is a good thing typically. That's what we saw from Keyshawn Davis. I think his confidence is unbeatable, can't be eclipsed. But too much confidence can also get you knocked out. And I actually had Roma Kalantarian on this channel, the trainer for Bakram Murtazaliev, the guy who knocked out Tim Tszyu, was on this channel. We did an interview with him not too long ago, and he said Tim Tszyu was too confident, and I used that confidence against him. And I believe, as confident as Terrence Crawford is, there's weight classes for a reason, and I believe that as well, knuckleheads. Hear me out. I promoted fights for 7 years in kickboxing. It's a striking sport at the highest levels. It was the best kickboxing promotion in the United States, in my opinion. I'm stepped away from it now. I'm taking some time to work on the channel. I don't know if I'll ever be back to promoting. It's very exhausting. I'm also a full-time attorney, raising children and doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm working on this channel instead. But weight classes matter more than the average fan thinks. I mean, I've seen guys look like they were on the verge of going to the hospital, on the verge of death, cutting weight. And I've seen the difference between a big guy and a little guy. And I've seen the difference between a guy showing up, killing himself to make weight versus an opponent who was nonchalant about it and just said, I'm just going to show up a few pounds heavy. Huge difference. Huge difference, knuckleheads. And it's sad because I want to say that almost every time the guy came in over because he didn't care about making weight, the guy just had way more energy and won the fight. It's sad. Keyshawn, easy money. Under 10.5, 202. I'm not sure what you mean about those numbers. To explain to me. Rico says, I don't think Canelo fought Berlanga or Munguia seriously. He was clearly pulling punches. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know about that, especially Berlanga. You know, I don't know about that. Crawford reminds me of Rip Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Switch it up. Maybe not the opponents. Crawford never got anything handed to him. Canelo lost to Mayweather, those 3 versus Triple G fights. I thought, I thought the Triple G fights were 1, 1, and 1. I thought Canelo won or lost the first Triple G fight. I thought the second one was like a draw. I thought he clearly won the third one. Maybe I would give him the second one too, but that one was really close. Well, Voka says Keyshawn was in mid-160s tonight. That's crazy. He looked big. Well, Voka, you're right about that, bro. He looked big, bro. He looked big. And he looked a mass. I mean, he looked like the guy's uncle in there today. He sunned him. I said he sunned him. That was a sunning. That was a Sun Tzu. that was the art of war by Norfolk, Virginia's very own Keyshawn Sun Tzu Davis. That was crazy. He weighted lighter though. What do you guys think of the Tank Davis fight versus Keyshawn? I mean, I think that's an excellent fight. I would love nothing more than to see that fight. I would love nothing more than to see that fight. Well, Voka says Crawford more cerebral than the Marvelous one, in my opinion. I would agree 100% with you, Voka. I would agree 100%. I'll go as far as to say like Crawford is one of the most amazing fighters I've ever watched. One of the most amazing boxers I've ever watched. I mean, I always think, maybe I'm maybe I'm biased. Maybe it's an era thing. For me, I feel like the best I ever seen in person during like my life while I've been watching boxing is Floyd Mayweather. It's Floyd Mayweather for me. But runner up right now, I would say, I mean, Terrence Crawford is up there. I'll be honest with you, I thought when he was firing on all cylinders, I just think he spent too much time in the amateurs, right? I thought Lomachenko was a real special fighter to watch too. When he was like at the beginning of his pro career. Now I think obviously, I mean, he's lost the step. He's a bit older, but I think if he would have done like 200 amateur fights, 150, and then gone pro, I think he would have been a real problem because some of the stuff I saw from him was amazing, and I think Usyk is pretty amazing too. But Floyd Mayweather, I think, is the best I've ever seen, in my opinion. Besides, the old school like Sugar Ray Robinson, I would say the best. The person I got to give the best title to, people might get upset with me. Everybody says Muhammad Ali. I think it's Sugar Ray Robinson. Even in heavyweight, I put Joe Louis ahead of Muhammad Ali just because of the style, not the impact on culture. But I would say Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis go ahead of Muhammad Ali. But I guess our era, guys my age, who was better than Floyd Mayweather? Who did it better than Floyd Mayweather? I mean, Pernell Whitaker was up there, but I felt like Floyd was the man. And then Crawford is like cut from that cloth. Crawford was cut from that cloth. Fugazi walk in with scally caps. Marvin Hagler beat Duran, Mugabe, Hearn. Stop it. No, he was great. I think Hagler was one of the best. But had a close fight that he lost to Leonard. People are up and down about that. I somewhat agree with Floyd as one of the best. Pretty boy, yes. Money made, no, says Volvolka. Loma was insane. I thought Loma was insane for sure when he came out. And then Sugar Ray Robinson is the best middleweight ever. I think Sugar Ray Robinson is the best fighter ever, period. I think Sugar Ray Robinson is the best ever, period. Right? Don't get mad at me because I said that. Floyd cherry-picked in second half of his career, avoided some real threats. I agree with that. A lot of respect for Wovoka for saying something like that. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Not a lot of people can get past the fanboy, the bias, to say something like that about Floyd Mayweather. I would agree, and I feel that's why I like Keyshawn Davis a bit more than Tank Davis, because I feel like Tank Davis's career has been an emulation of Floyd's in the second half. And I feel like Keyshawn's is an emulation, of Terrence Crawford, who never ducked any sort of smoke. I mean, ducking smoke. I mean, Terrence Crawford is running after the smoke like a base head, going up to 168 to fight Big Red. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy, knuckleheads. It's crazy. Volka, Sugar Ray Robinson, number one of all times. You damn right. Because like Coach Derek Collinsworth said, boxing was perfected in the 30s in the United States, son. That's right, Coach. You're right about that. Caesar Sr., 89-0 before he lost to a prime Golden Boy. True, but controversial win over Pernell Whitaker. Anybody without cataracts knows that Pernell Whitaker slapped those buttocks. But, obviously, crazy respect for Cesar Chavez Sr. The guy was a beast, and he's the man. Why is that anyone hyped about Lamont Roach fight? He looks solid. I think it's a good fight, I think it's a good fight. I think what's happened for PF, though, and by the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'm dropping like daily content, busting my ass to create a fraternity of boxing for us to enjoy together on this channel. And I might have Manny Robles on soon. It looks like he might be together with Andy Ruiz again. He actually messaged me today, so I might have him on soon. So I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff for you guys, and you guys could, put some suggestions in as to who you'd like us to speak to and bring onto the channel, and we'll try to make it happen. I think what's happened for PF with Tank Davis is his career has been so choreographed, right? This is kind of going to what Wovoka's talking about with Floyd Money Mayweather, the second half of Floyd's career. His career has been so carefully manufactured, if you will. They've guided him along with so much bubble wrap that, people see Lamont Roach and probably are just thinking like, oh, here's another guy. Here's another bowling pin that they're putting up in front of Tank Davis for him to just roll through. And he's probably going to get a strike or a spare at worst. And I think that's what's happening. Roach is not bad. He's pretty good. But if we're being honest, is Roach an elite guy for PF? No. And Tank Davis is at the point in his career where he is absolutely starving for an elite guy. And he's got some respectable names on his resume, right? You think about Mario Barrios, a guy that was way bigger than him, went on to be a welterweight champ, albeit not the best one, but still. He fought Gamboa, but the guy was older. He fought Pedraza, who's always been, I think kind of a lower level champion. I don't want to disrespect the guy, but I think the guy was a beast, and then he fought Pitbull Cruz, but we've kind of seen Pitbull Cruz's worth in his last few fights. I thought he got a gift, did Pitbull Cruz in the last fight he fought. I thought he should have lost that fight. So I think what's happening is, people are expecting Tank Davis to fight guys that are not his caliber. And Lamont Roach, maybe he's earned it, perhaps. But, you need to see a guy like Tank Davis at this point against a Shakur Stevenson. You need something like that. Teofimo Lopez, right? Even though he's looked like crap in his past few fights. You need something like that for Tank Davis. Otherwise, he's always going to be, the guy with the asterisk on the back of his name. Now, do I think Tank Davis could beat a guy like, Shakur, or a guy like Keyshawn? Like, yes. Like, I think Tank Davis is that guy, man. I think he's a beast. I think these guys can beat each other on any given night. That's how good they are. But he's just not putting himself at risk. He's just not doing it. He's risk averse. Tell me what you guys think. Do you guys agree with that? Joe Louis, a huge American hero. I agree with that. Joe Louis is an American hero. And, man, Sugar Ray Robinson is a man. I do think Keyshawn should eventually fight Andy Cruz. If you watch during the interviews, he seems a bit unsure about that fight. I like Keyshawn in that fight, Wovoka. I like Keyshawn in that fight. Sugar Ray Leonard ducked Hagler for 10+ years. Yeah, but then he went and, kind of beat him. So, but I hear what you're saying. Hagler was absolutely one of the best. I just think Crawford is more cerebral, as Wovoka said, and I just think he's more athletic too. I do. Wovoka says carefully orchestrated, referring to the career of Tank Davis. Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. By the way, if anyone's feeling this and wants to drop a super chat or join the channel, I've got several different levels from, they've got fun nicknames like, we did along the lines of an organization that I don't want to mention on YouTube. But yeah, there's a few different levels. There's Capo, there's Underboss, whatever you do, anything you buy, if you want to buy some Fightersrep merch in the link below, greatly appreciate it. Helps me continue to do this, hopefully escape the rat race that is my life. I would love to do this for a living and hopefully do more for you guys. Typical boxing since 12-round fights instead of 15. Tank Davis, 8 rounds or less. Tank don't waste punches. It's going to be hard for Tank to please fans at this point because Loma's old. Shakur doesn't have a lot of knockouts. and Keyshawn only has 14 fights. He is in a bit of a predicament. He is in a bit of a predicament. But Tank Davis needs to go out there and fight Shakur and knock him out. You know what I mean? Loma is old. I don't know if that fight's going to happen. But, I don't know. I guess Tank just needs to continue doing what he's doing. But, man, Rico, you tell me, don't you think it's come to the point where Tank needs to fight like a big name and get into a fight, right? Forget a big name. I want to see Tank go into a fight where I say, damn, that's 50-50. It's a 50-50 fight. Who was it? Ryan Garcia, the closest he got. He drained the guy. Gary disagrees with me on the podcast, by the way, when I say he drained him. But I felt like he drained the guy. So, I don't know. I want to see Tank Davis. I do know. Forget that I said I don't know. I do know. I want to see Tank Davis fight a guy that is on his level, that I go into, that the fight gets announced and I say to myself, ooh, that's a tough one. I say to myself, he's got that's a 50-50. Because that Usyk Fury fight, I thought it was 50-50. And the Opataya Bradis fight, I thought it was 50-50. And the Zoo Murtazalia fight, I thought it was 60-40 for Zoo. And, so people want to see you get challenged. And listen, Bivol Beterbiev, I thought was 50-50. And I think this next one is just about 50-50. That's what people want to see. That's what Big Turkey, the most delicious drumstick at Disneyland, wants to see. The Big Turkey, he wants to pour gravy. He's the gravy train, so he wants to pour gravy all over the fighters, get them paid, and he wants to see the best fights. That's what people want to see. Casuals won't give Tank credit for beating anyone at this point. If you're being honest, the expectations are too high for him. I don't think so. He's not special. Nobody's singling him out. If anything, listen. If anything, Tank is the most entertaining guy in boxing. I said it. For me, Keyshawn Davis is quickly, meteorically rising up to become one of my favorite fighters in boxing. But Tank Davis, man, there's nothing more electrifying than a Tank Davis fight. Unfortunately, we're just not getting something to where we say, this is the career-defining fight for Tank Davis. Let me ask you, Rico, what's the career? Let's talk through it. Me and you, Rico Suave. What is the career-defining fight, guys? You tell me, guys. You drop it in the chat. We're here together. We're having this fraternity, this roundtable discussion. What's the career-defining fight of Tank Davis, who is now, 30, 31? 30 years old. November, he'll turn 31. What is the career-defining fight? What is the career-defining fight? Isaac Pitbull Cruz? Ryan Garcia? The guy who was caught with PEDs in his system against Devin Haney, and despite having PEDs in his system and dropping a guy 3 times, one of the judges still scored it a draw? Is Ryan Garcia elite? Gamboa? Who is it? Mario Barrios, who just went life and death with some guy you've never heard of? Give it to me. No, don't just sit there in the chat now. Don't just sit there in the chat. You guys want to drive me crazy. You gotta give me something. You can't tell me, you can't say casuals won't give it. So we're casuals now if we won't give Tank credit for beating anyone. Come on. I would give him credit for beating Barrios, much bigger guy, right? But not elite. Credit for beating Pitbull Cruz, but not elite. Credit for beating Ryan Garcia, but not elite. And maybe not even clean. Who? Frank Martin? Come on, Rico. Tank and Keyshawn is the best fight right now, says Rico. Probably. Tank Davis been dropping people in the ring since 7 years old. I love to see Davis versus Stevenson. Hagler was fighting 15-round fights, not a mark on Hagler versus Leonard. Listen, Tank Davis, we're all lying to ourselves if we're saying that that is not the most explosive and entertaining fighter in boxing. I can't think of a more explosive, entertaining fighter in boxing, maybe Inoue. And he's out in Japan, and he doesn't need to come here because he's making millions in Japan, where they give a shit about their combat sports. He doesn't need to come here. Besides him, who's more electric than Tank Davis? You think of Tank Davis, man, and it's like a movie. It's like a movie. It's like a music video. It's like it's the culture. It's the game. It's the United States. It's Tank Davis, dude. Tank Davis is the embodiment of American culture right now. He's super exciting. He's everything. But I just want to see him as a throwback old school fight fan. I want to see him fight somebody that I could say that guy's, maybe he's just that good, that there's nobody out there that you can say it's a 50-50 fight, but that's not true. Shakur Stevenson, even Keyshawn Davis. I mean, I'm sure Tank Davis would be the betting favorite perhaps in that fight right now because of the resumes and the experience and the age difference. But who else? I don't know. I'll pick Shakur over most. He's so technically sound and difficult to hit. I dislike his style. I agree with everything you're saying, Wovoka. He's good, but all that constant movement is a bit much to me, bordering on running. No, sweet son. Listen, I agree. It's a boring style to watch, and unless you're a huge fan of the technical aspect of boxing, then it's not going to be appealing, and it's not appealing to most people, though. But, geez, you're not wrong, though. So I guess Rico agrees with me. George, I agree with everything you're saying, 100%. Leonard, never heard Hagler once, not a mark on him. Did you see GTD said he ducked Haney because he could only beat him by KO, and Devin being Turkey's guy in Islam, he would lose by unanimous decision. I heard about that. I did hear about that. But I don't think that's true. That sounds like a bit of a cop-out. Now, if I'm being honest with you, to me, Tank Davis looks burned out. And the reason I say it is because I'm burned out right now, right? And I know what it looks like. I was, let me just tell you guys real quick, for the past 7 years, what I did, right? Attorney, family man, kids playing, travel sports, crazy, and fight promoter. 7 years doing all three at the same time. Burnt myself to a crisp. I get to the point now where I think about weigh-ins, and I think about tickets, and I think about fighters showing up on weight or not showing up on weight, and I start going like this. That's why I'm concentrating on the channel, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I see Tank Davis, and I say to myself, here's a kid from Baltimore, grew up in the hood, whatever, rough life. I get it. Trust me, I get it. And then you're putting all this pressure on him. And he's an introvert. I'm an extrovert. He's an introvert. So it's triple, quadruple the pressure for him. He's out there doing media all the time, and people are talking trash to him all the time, and he's on social media all the time, and he's training for a fight, and he's always got a deadline. That's the worst part about the fight game. Let me tell you guys, that deadline. I would think, I got an event. We got to fight February, and it's all you think about every day. Did I do enough? Did I get the insurance? Did this fighter got his tickets? Are the gloves the right size? Is the ring going to be there? Is this guy going to show up with the camera? It's nonstop. It drives you crazy. And Tank Davis, in my opinion, is being driven crazy by boxing. Or otherwise, he wouldn't be talking about retiring and hanging out with his daughters and stuff like that. That's the weight of boxing, of the fight game, grinding you away into a stump of the man you were. So, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of perspective there. I didn't fight like the way Davis did, but I promoted, and I know what goes into this, and it's not what you guys think. It's not what you guys think. By the way, any question you guys have about that, ever about the promoting and the fight game and stuff like that. Like sometimes I hear things and I'm just like, oh, these people have no idea what they're talking about, like about contracts. I'm an attorney. I was also was a promoter for 7 years. I did pro fights. I did amateur fights. I know stuff. I did this, like the kids say, I do this, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm on the channel now. This is what I can do. I have time for this channel. I have time for you guys. I didn't have time anymore to deal with. And let me tell you guys something. I'm going to share this with you guys real quick before I start reading your comments and move on to back to boxing. One of the biggest reasons for me burning out was the new generation and this pull-out culture. Let me give you guys an example. On my last card in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I lost 33% plus of the fight card. People just pulled out. That's where the dedication of our youth is right now, of our country. That's where a man's word is right now, right? And that's why it drives me crazy. If I say I'm going to do something, bro, if I say I'm going to do something, my word is bond, like they used to say. My word is bond. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Because that's what makes, especially in my culture, that's what makes a man a man. That's what makes a man a man. Anyway, Tank and Keyshawn is the best fight right now. I would love to watch that fight. Turned it down. Says 4PF. Tank Davis versus Inoue catchweight. Tank Davis is elite. I agree. Tank versus Inoue. That would be crazy. But, even if, listen, that's going to be a situation if that fight happens. It's not going to be as extreme. But Tank's going to be in the Canelo position, right? Where the smaller guy's coming up. And if he beats him, people are going to say, well, that's a smaller guy. He came up. That's why I thought when they, recently they said the Canelo Crawford fight was off. And then they said, oh, no, it's not off. Now there's a 4-fight deal with Riyadh season. When they said the fight was off, I said to myself, Canelo doesn't need to be in a position where a smaller guy's coming up to fight him that can beat him and really tarnish his legacy. Make no mistake, guys. That's almost a lose. Fighting Terrence Crawford is almost a lose-lose for Canelo. The only reason it's not a lose-lose, it's a lose-woos, which is half win, half lose. It's because the turkey is probably throwing so much gravy on him. It's crazy. It's probably crazy the amount of gravy he's putting on him. Mel Vision, if Leo Santa Cruz, Tank, it's Leo Santa Cruz, Tank's best fight, which is crazy. Melvision, you're right. That's one of them. It's crazy. Leo Santa Cruz is a little guy. He's a little guy that came up to fight Tank and he did well until he didn't. Until he ate the uppercut. Bro, he ate a Mortal Kombat uppercut. Do you guys remember that uppercut? Look, there's a Ryu Ken's in here. He ate the Ryu-Ken. He ate the nastiest uppercut that was the nastiest counter uppercut. He was spamming that goofy. I think he was spamming a 2 or spamming a jab. And Davis was like, 1, 2. Oh, you're going to do it a third time? Here you go. Bang! I was like, ooh, God. Like, knocked him out cold. 12 and 15 rounds, big difference. I hear people, George puts in his grind. Appreciate you, Bobby. Appreciate you, Baltimore versus Virginia. It says, you are correct. I'm digging this channel. I'm digging you, Avoke. Appreciate you being in here, man. No diddler, but I am digging all of you guys. Appreciate you guys. Listen. The 15-round thing. I want to touch on that real quick. That's another thing that makes me shudder a little bit, right? Let's not forget why we went to 12 rounds. Let's not forget. I want to say one of the biggest reasons we went to 12 rounds was that absolutely tragic and terrible situation. And I heard about it recently, and I hate to even think about it. That Boom Boom Mancini versus Dooku Kim fight that went 15 rounds that saw 3 people lose their lives. I don't think 15 rounds is necessary. I don't think it makes you more of a man to fight 15 rounds. I don't like it. I don't think it's necessary. I think the problem with boxing, right, why so many guys are punch drunk, and this is something I thought about too, letting you back into the promoter mind real quick, guys. And by the way, Ryu Ken says Keyshawn's a special talent. He's going to be great. I've already said multiple times, Ryu Ken, on the channel tonight that I think he's going to be a pound-for-pound guy. But listen, let's you real quick right back into the promoter brain. I promoted kickboxing. Boxing with kicks and knees. 3 rounds. 5 rounds for a title fight. That's it. You don't see a lot of kickboxers that are punch drunk. Let me repeat that. You don't see a lot of kickboxers that are punch drunk. And it's because it's 3 rounds or 5 rounds. You get knocked out. That's the end of the fight. You're not taking sustained damage over the course of 12 rounds. That's what, in my opinion, creates a lot of brain damage. Now you guys are talking about increasing that, right, by a quarter, by 25%, adding 3 rounds. That's 25% more. More pain, more damage, more punches. I don't like it. I don't like it. People going to die. That's not necessary. If you're not the better man over the course of 12 rounds, that's it. That's what you should train for. In kickboxing, if you're not the better man over the course of 3 rounds or 5 rounds for a title fight. MMA, same thing, 3 or 5. What are we going to have them fight to the death? What are we doing here? You guys are already allowing bare knuckle. Bare knuckles already happen all over the place now. What do you guys want next? Swords? Come on, guys. We got to pump the brakes at some point. We got to pump the brakes. These guys are not being paid enough. They're not being paid enough to fight no damn 15 rounds. That's wild. That's guaranteed CTE. Somebody call AB. That's CTE SPN. That's what that is. Asian fighter died. We lose 5 a year in boxing. In last 200 Mexican champions, Canelo chooses his way out of his prime. Too many hard fights. Tank Davis, a counterpunching juggernaut for his size. Rip Rob Kamen. Knuckleheads, I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. This has been a great live. Remember, we go live after every big fight. Tomorrow, I even want to go live, if I can, after the Catterall versus Barbosa fight. It's a fight I'm very excited about. It's happening in the UK, but Barbosa is a kid from Long Beach, California, the U.S. I'm going for him. I like Catterall too. But, we got to go with the American kid. I like Barbosa a lot. Both of these guys have been fighting for a long time. I did my prediction on this one. I'm seeing a slight decision for Barbosa just because I think he's got the reach. He's got the height. He's more technically, I would say, a bit more technically sound and responsible defensively, but great fight. Great fight for an interim WBO at super lightweight, right? So one division up from what we watched today. Again, Jack Catterall, Arnold Barbosa. I do want to go live after it if I can, so join me on the channel. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about you guys joining me tonight. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, join the channel, subscribe to the channel, get your merchandise in the links below. Be a part of Knucklehead Nation. It's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on boxing. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys soon. Be safe. If you want to chat with me at any point, hit me up. I'll talk to you guys soon. Instagram. Later.